Welcome to this webinar at Believers Church Medical College Hospital. Today we have a very important topic, clinical inertia in diabetes. And to moderate this interesting session, we have two doctors. The first person is Dr. Mohan Varghese, Senior Consultant Physician and Diabetologist at Believers Church Medical College and Hospital. He was the former Chief of Medicines and Diabetology at Tiruvalla Medical Mission and Head of DNB Training too. Few international publications to his credit and more than 32 years of experience in internal medicine and diabetology. With undergraduate and postgraduate studies from Muzaffarpur and Belgaum respectively, we welcome our senior physician, Dr. Mohan Varghese, to this webinar. Next, we have Dr. Philip Finney, who is our consultant endocrinologist at Believers Church Medical College and Hospital. His undergraduation and post-graduation was at CMC Vellore, and he specialized from the same institute in endocrinology. After 2 years of fellowship at the Royal College at Basildon University, Sussex, UK, he worked for many years in mission hospitals, rendering matchless service to the poor and downtrodden. Currently, he is with us as consultant endocrinologist. Welcome, Dr. Philip Finney, to this webinar. And may I request Dr. Philip Finney to introduce our guest speaker for the day, who is one of the doyens of diabetology. Over to you, Dr. Philip Finney, for the introduction and to start off the webinar.
Good evening, friends. I hope I'm audible. Thank you. It is my joy and privilege to say a few words of introduction for Dr. V. Mohan, a person about whom I'd only read in the textbooks. I've read his articles on fibrocalcific pancreatic diabetes in the pickup textbook of diabetes when I trained in endocrinology. And I've read many of his articles over the course of my training and over the past many years. But it was such a pleasant surprise when Jacob asked me to moderate a session and to listen to Dr. Mohan and to facilitate this session. So it's my joy. And I really want to welcome you, Dr. Mohan, to the Believers Church webinar. And I'm sure it'll be a pleasure for all of us to listen to you, sharing your loads of experience over the years and your research work as well in this field. Dr. Mohan's, just for those of you who may not be very familiar with him, he's so well known in the field of diabetology and endocrinology across the country. And Dr. Mohan is the chairman and the chief of diabetology at the Dr. Mohan's Diabetes Specialty Centers at Chennai in South India, which is incidentally the IDF Center for Excellence in Diabetes Care. Dr. Mohan oversees a chain of nearly 48 diabetes centers in 8 states of India and has over 500,000 registered diabetes patients in all these centers put together. He's the president and the director of the MDRF, which is Asia's largest standalone diabetes research center. He has always been interested in research right from his undergraduate days, and he has published over 2,300 papers in various peer-reviewed journals, has got many original articles and has written chapters in textbook of research, and his research citations are numbering nearly 129,000 and has an H index of 131. Dr. Mohan has trained many number of physicians and diabetologists in addition to nurse educators, and has received over 180 awards, including the prestigious Dr. B.C. Roy Award by the Medical Council of India. He has been conferred the Dr. Harold Rifkin Distinguished International Service Award in the cause of diabetes by the ADA, and is the first Indian to receive this award. Recently, he also was conferred the Fellowship of the Royal Society of Edinburgh, and he's one of the few medical doctors in India to have been awarded the FRSE. For his extensive contribution over his lifetime in the field of diabetes, he was awarded the Padma Shri Award in 2012, which is the 4th highest civilian award given by the government of India. I can go on and sing many pains in honor of Dr. Mohan, but I know that he's spent his entire lifetime to mitigate the difficulties faced by people, not just in the city, particularly in Chennai, where I grew up in Chennai. I know he spent so much of his time in Chennai, but across, his impact has been global and not just more than across the borders of our country. And it's such a pleasure, Dr. Mohan, to have you with us. And we really look forward to having you speak to us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Philip Finney, for those very kind words. I would like to thank my young colleague, Dr. Jacob Jesuran. He's so full of energy that he managed to get me for this meeting. It's quite persuasive. So thank you, Jacob. And of course, another good friend, Dr. Mohan Varghese, who will be also meeting in this webinar. I've been hearing a lot about the good work that the Believers Church has been doing. And within a short time, you have risen to become one of the top medical colleges in Kerala. And I know that you do great work, and therefore it's a great honor for me to participate in this webinar. Let me get my slides. I hope you can see my slides. It's seen? Yeah, good. So I have, when Jacob asked me what would you like to talk on, I just picked this topic because I believe this is very important, because although we have a lot of advances in diabetes, the complications of diabetes are not going away. In fact, just yesterday, we published a paper in Diabetes Care, which should be in the press tomorrow, I think, where we are showing that although cardiovascular rates are high among people with diabetes, and that doesn't matter where you live in Canada or US or Germany, cardiovascular rates are higher in people with diabetes. So there are so many risk factors that people with diabetes have. But what they have done is that despite having cardiovascular disease, their death rates have come down due to cardiovascular disease. But that is something which we have not managed to do in low and middle income countries like India. And that is the paper which, my daughter is actually the first author of that. And we have just published that in Diabetes Care literally yesterday. And today we have just sent it out to the press and so on. So that again tells you what I'm talking about today, that despite all the advances, people are still dying. They're still developing complications, which the West has slowly begun to tackle. And I believe that it's due to clinical inertia, our not doing enough for our patients early enough or aggressively enough, which is responsible. And that's why I chose this particular topic. Just to formally thank Dr. Philip Fenny, Dr. Mohan Varghese, and the organizers, and of course, my young friend, Dr. Jacob Jisra. Now, let me start here. Now, diabetes is not one of those rare diseases. Even COVID, I would say, is a rare disease, because if you leave the common COVID, which everybody, nobody even knows that you have it, like a cold, cough, and so on. The really severe COVID, if you take, is very rare. Even now, it is very rare. The number of people who die is still very rare. And that is something which has already started coming down. In Tamil Nadu, the numbers have now come below 4,000. What used to be 6,000, 7,000. Yesterday, for the first time, it's below 4,000, 3,000 something. And I think in the next 2-3 months, we may be seeing this disease out of our country with God's grace. This is not going to be the case with chronic non-communicable diseases like diabetes. For example, in the year 2019, we already had close to 80 million people with diabetes. And then these numbers are supposed to go up very conservatively. They're saying only 101 million by 2030 and 134 million by 2045. Every time they put a number like this, within 5-10 years, it happens. So these are not the numbers. They're going to be much, much bigger than that. And although in this particular figure, I disagreed with the IDF, and I wrote to them saying, I completely disagree with you, saying that China will be in the number 1 position in 2045. By the time China's population will decrease by almost 20%, and India's population will have gone, in another 3 years, we are going to overtake China. And by 2045, we'll be so much bigger than China. How can we have less number of people? With common sense, any medical student will tell you that this is wrong. Somebody sat somewhere and wrote some nonsensical figures. It doesn't matter. I'm not competing with China to be number 1 in diabetes, but I'm just saying that these are not correct. We will have much more than China, and we will definitely be the largest. This is not the worry. If you have little diabetes, you have to do some exercise and walk out a little bit and cut, and take your medicines. It is fine. What we're worried about is the complications. And this complications comes because we are not controlling our people as we should. Study after study has shown that if the HbA1c, and I'm sure all of you know what's HbA1c, the 3 months control test, if it is below 7%, normal values around 5.6% for a non-diabetic person. If you keep a diabetic person's HbA1c below 7, virtually you can eliminate at least the microvascular complications, retinopathy, nephropathy, neuropathy, and so on. In 2001, this is 2011, the second Diabcare India study. But in the first Diabcare India study that we did in 2001, when we took a similar set of topmost diabetologists and endocrinologists in the country, we said, let's go to the best people and see what kind of control do their patients have. And we took serially the first 50 or 100 patients coming to the center to avoid any bias. And we found that the A1C at that time was 8.7 across all the clinics. 10 years later, very hopeful that the control would have improved over 10 years' time. We did the same study again, and to our horror, we found it actually worsened. It had come to 8.9. So then I kept asking myself, what have we done in 10 years? Thousands of conferences we have conducted. We have taught everybody what to do. And these are the best diabetes centers in the country, best endocrinology centers in the country. Then, of course, somebody pointed out and said, it may be because of bias, because of the worst cases go to the best doctors. And therefore, what you're seeing is a worst case scenario. This may not be the case in India. Maybe in India, people are much better controlled. Don't go by these clinics which are treating diabetic patients. Fair enough. That comment is fair enough and very well taken. So how do you find out what is the level of control in India? For that, you need to do an Indian study, which means you have to do every state in the country. And then you have to look at every diabetic patient. You have to do HbA1c done in everyone, at least in a representative sample. Is such a study possible? Yes, it's possible. And that's what is called as the ICMR India Diabetes Study. I'm very lucky that my daughter Anjana and the son-in-law Ranjit both work with me. This is actually Anjana's idea. In fact, she is now in the driving seat, and most of the clinical research work, everything is done by my daughter and son-in-law. I'm very blessed to have them. So this was her idea. We must study the whole country, representative sample of the whole country. We'll see when she stands on my shoulder, she can see much further than I can see. And I could see much further than my father, who was the first diabetologist of India, because I stood on his shoulder. So as you stand on people's shoulders, you see what others did not see. There's a poem also about that, the Ladder of St. Augustine. So it was her idea. So in the INDIAB study, which is now almost nearing completion, almost the whole India we have completed now. It's taken us 10 years, by the way, to complete the whole country. Every state in the country, rural, urban, representative sample. But when you finish the first 4 states, in 2014, we published this paper. That time we had Tamil Nadu in the south, Maharashtra in the west. In the north, we had Chandigarh, and in the east, we had Jharkhand. So we had finished the first 4. So we said, let's publish this, otherwise we'll never get anything published. So when we did that, what we found was if you combine the 4 states together, and there was no difference between the 4 states, by the way, not that one state is doing much better. Now, this is state-wise, and this is representative sample, urban, rural. We have gone and selected, the computer has selected the house, the home, and everything. You couldn't get it more representative than this. In fact, this matches the census so beautifully that if you draw the Indian census and draw the India census, one sits on top of the other. So beautifully done. So if you look at the level of the control there, you find, and you take A1C less than 7 as good control, only 30% of people in India in these 4 states had diabetes. If you go to the, and everybody mute, please. And everybody mute. Galaxy A21 era. Mute. എല്ലാരും മ്യൂട്ട് ചെയ്യണം കേട്ടോ.
Excuse me, there's a lot of please mute your mics. There's a lot of noise coming in.
Yeah, Galaxy A21, that seems to be the one. Please mute, please. After the lecture, you can ask questions. Okay, so let me go.
Extremely sorry for that, sir.
That's okay, don't worry. It's a by mistake. Okay. So if you look at the other end of the spectrum and see those who are not Can you mute this person? Or can you mute everyone? Is possible, Jacob? I think
We are doing it, sir. We are doing it, sir.
they have gone. They have gone. Doesn't matter. Okay. So if you look at the other end of the spectrum where people are not under control, and we took A1C more than 9 as the criterion, you can see that 30 to 40%, almost 40% in rural India and almost 32% in urban India has A1C above 9. So it is not because of a referral problem that those clinics were showing that. That is the status in India. What is happening in India? Only same people are coming to these clinics. So to cut a long story short, control is very poor in India. Now we have finished almost 30, 28, 29 states. We have finished now. Situation has not improved. Unfortunately, everywhere we go, same story only we see, including Kerala, which is supposed to be so highly advanced. Including there, the control is not good. Including Goa, small places. Even there, we are not find a single state where everybody is under control, or at least nearly everyone is under control. So message is sugar is not under control for majority of people. That's what clinical inertia is talking about. Now, what happens if the sugar is not under control, A1C is high, is shown in one study here, published in BMJ some years ago. As the A1C increases, complications will start increasing. This is new onset of complication, incidence of complications. It rises sharply above 9%. So for every reduction that you have in A1C, the complications will come down. So you must try to bring this person here, that person here, and that person here. So wherever you are, at least bring the A1C down a little bit. And with that, the complications can be reduced. If you don't do that, then all these complications will come. Now, we were lucky that we had other studies, like, for example, the CURE study, the Chennai Urban Rural Epidemiological Study, where we studied the whole population and we looked at the complications of the whole population. We did retinal photographs in everyone. We did Dopplers in everyone. This is not in the clinic. This is in their homes. We went home, did all the, we took urine microalbumin sample in everyone in this study. And we found 26,000 people were studied. And we found that whichever complication you take, except peripheral vascular disease, which is slightly less common because of our younger age. We get diabetes at a much younger age, so PVD is not so common. But you take neuropathy, nephropathy, retinopathy, coronary artery disease, they are all very, very high. That's the point I was making about the other paper, the diabetes care paper, where I'm saying that people are dying due to coronary artery disease at younger ages in our population. And all this comes because we are not controlling our patients well enough. Now, what happens is this magic figure of 7% A1C is what you're supposed to get. But one of the things that we don't even tell our patients is to come back in time. Suppose somebody has 6.5, we'll tell them, okay, you come back after a year or two, I'll see you. Don't make that mistake. Because if you do that, what will happen is diabetes control will slip and it will start getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. As you wait for longer and longer periods, the control will get worse and worse and worse, and they carry with them what is called as glycemic burden. This is not a theoretical slide which is made up. We have actual data. We have published papers to show that the longer you wait, the worse the control and worse the glycemic burden. So what's the answer for that? That's the first step in clinical inertia. Don't make them wait too long. Ask them to come back earlier. For example, if they came back here, all right, this is, let us take this as 2 years, and this is 1 year now. Immediately we'll get a chance. Patient will get scared. Oh my God, my sugar is very high. I have to do something. And then you also get worried, and then you will bring it down. So once you bring it down back to 7, what happens? This part shown in red is avoidable. Okay. This shown in green is still unavoidable because they have come only then. Okay. But what if they came back earlier, or earlier? In other words, every 2 to 3 months, if somebody is coming for follow-up, the moment it goes up, you'll bring it down. The moment it goes up, you'll bring it down. The moment it goes up, you'll bring it down. So that means the entire glycemic burden can be avoided. In those cases where you avoided that, complications can also be avoided. We have long-term data now, 15-year follow-up, 20-year follow-up, 30-year follow-up to tell you that it is possible. So that's my first message to you. Whenever you have a diabetic patient, ask them to come back, even if they're doing well, doesn't matter. Let them come every 2-3 months, at least once in 4 months, 3-4 times a year, and see you. Then you get an opportunity to control it. Otherwise, it's a losing game. Now, this is what we call as clinical inertia. And my first paper on clinical inertia I wrote a few years ago, I think it's 2014 or something, where we set time to do more, addressing clinical inertia and management of diabetes. In fact, I'm not going to go into this, but we put down 4 or 5 things which people should do to prevent clinical inertia. This is one of the first papers on clinical inertia, okay? And 4 principles we laid down, what to do and what to tell patients and so on. So, but what is clinical inertia? How to define it? Clinical inertia is defined as a lack of treatment intensification in a patient not at evidence-based goals for care. What is evidence-based goal? HbA1c is 7%. LDL cholesterol is 100 milligrams. Blood pressure 130 by 80. You've got all those goals. If they are not at goal and you're not done anything about it, you are guilty of clinical inertia. Okay. So it's also defined as failure of the healthcare providers to initiate or intensify treatment when indicated. So if there is a reason to initiate or intensify therapy and you don't do that, clinical inertia, you're guilty of clinical inertia, right? More recently, 2019, a few years later, I said, no, this is not enough. Just after they come and after their control has got very much bad, if you start, it's too late in the day. And I expanded the whole concept of clinical inertia. I don't think anyone in the world has done that. And what I did was I went back to the natural history of diabetes. And I said, why are you only looking at the clinical diabetes and saying, okay, if the sugar is high, you're not controlled it. Yes, that is clinical inertia. But look how close it is to the stage of complications. If you miss a little bit there, you're going to slip and they're going to go into the complications. We have to work very fast. Plus, you don't know when they're going to come to us. The clinical inertia, the clinical diabetes, they may come early to us or they may come very late. After 5, 10, 15 years, they'll come. By the time you start your intensification, they'll develop complications. Then they'll tell you, because you treated us in okay. So if there is a stage before the clinical diabetes stage, and that's called as pre-diabetes. This is a stage where you're not normal, you're not diabetic, but you're in between. Then there is a stage of normal glucose tolerance, even before the pre-diabetes stage. So when you're born, you're not born in the stage of clinical diabetes, unless you have neonatal diabetes or something, which is very rare. The usual type 2 diabetes, if you get it at 30, 40, 50, you've got 30, 40, 50 years before you reach there. What are you doing until then? Why did we wait until then? Why not start 5, 10 years earlier at the stage of pre-diabetes? You can do primary prevention there. There are so many studies, DPP study, Indian DPP study, or DCLIP study. So many studies have shown that if you start there, you can actually reverse them and bring them to normal. So why are we not working there? If you don't do it, again, clinical inertia. Why should you wait until they get into the stage of pre-diabetes? Okay. Recently, I just read a paper which I have reviewed, and it's going to come out in a big journal, where they looked at Denmark. They've studied children who were 10 years old and what is the fat percentage they had, what is the weight they had, and 30 years later, who developed diabetes they were able to follow. Because in Denmark, they've got every person's record in their registry. They have only 4 million, 5 million people in Denmark. Every person's record they have from the time you're born till you die. And even after you die, they have your records. Okay, India is not possible to get that. They found if at age 10, if you have more body fat and your weight is more, you will get diabetes in the future. See how they're able. So when they know that, why can't we start early? Why can't we start in childhood, in college, in Believers Church Medical College? You get, you start working with all your students and see those who are overweight. Start an exercise program for them. Many of them you can prevent from getting diabetes. Incidentally, I want to tell you that in the ICMR INDIAB study, which we did, Kerala has the highest prevalence of diabetes in the whole country. Followed by closely by Goa. Okay. So you are having the highest diabetes burden in the whole country. So when you're having that, why can't we start programs much earlier instead of waiting for over diabetes to come? We have got all that. That is the basis of my paper, where I showed that you can actually have work here, 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 there. And if you fail in any of that, there is clinical inertia in every point. And I'm not going to go into this, but my paper has all the, I put down a kind of a formula like a white paper, and I'm saying at a population level, you can do that. If you don't do it, you will get more diabetes. In high risk group, pre-diabetes, you don't do anything, you're losing the opportunity to prevent diabetes. In those with new onset diabetes, if you don't identify early clinical inertia, you're increasing the risk of complication. Those who have established diabetes, you don't do it, definitely they'll land up in complication, and so on and so forth. Those with early complications, if you don't catch them early, treat the microalbuminuria, treat the retinopathy early, then you'll lead to renal failure, amputation, heart attack, strokes, blindness, everything there. So you've got such a wide opportunity to do some action, something to move, and that is clinical inertia. So clinical inertia, not just giving insulin to people or something. Much earlier you can start, right from prevention to reversal of diabetes, to treating diabetes well, and to picking up complications early and aggressively treating it. All this if you do, tomorrow, 10, 15 years from now, there will not be a single blind person due to diabetes in India. Half of the work of the nephrologist may go off. End-stage renal disease may come down. Amputation can be avoided. Neuropathy can be avoided. Heart attacks can be at least reduced, if not totally prevented. So many things you can do if you work on this. That is why I thought this is a very important message to give all of you. Now, there are others like my good friend, Dr. Kamlesh Kunti from Leicester, who says there is another aspect to clinical inertia. One is about intensifying treatment. He also says the opposite is also very important. An old person comes 80 years old, 90 years old, and you're aiming for HbA1c of 6.5, and finally you'll get a hypoglycemia and kill that person. There you have to de-intensify the treatment. That is also part of clinical inertia. If you don't do that, that is also part of clinical inertia. So he calls it as therapeutic inertia and de-intensifying treatment, particularly in those who have a frail diabetes phenotype. Who has a frail diabetes phenotype? Very old people, 70, 80, 90. Very long duration diabetes. Somebody's already crossed 50, 45 years of diabetes. Now, where is he going to develop complication? Why are you hitting him so hard then? Relax at that time. Those who are underweight, those who have heart disease, stroke, kidney disease, their problems are different. You must be treating the kidney disease, heart disease, not diabetes at that stage. So you relax the diabetic control. Doesn't matter. 7.5, 8 is enough, because at that stage, nothing you're going to gain. You may cause more harm. If you don't do that, again, there is clinical inertia. So people have worked out that 50% of the clinical inertia is due to the physician. 30% is due to the patient. Patient simply refuses. Whatever you tell, they refuse. 20% is due to the structural system. Your clinic is not, or your system, your healthcare system is not geared for that. You're not geared to bring them back. You're not geared to do the eye test. You're not geared to do the foot examination. All these contribute. In fact, 200 barriers they found for clinical inertia to set in. And this is the continuation of that. Now, the other thing that we do is we follow a kind of a, very laid back approach in treatment. See, somebody comes to us HbA1c of 9 or 9.5. We're very happy if they get 7.5 even on the first time. Okay. Remember, that's going to be his best ever in his life. If they come 7 only, no, 7.5, 7.8, it's okay. It's not okay, because that is the best in his lifetime. If you don't get it lower, then in his lifetime, you're not good. You're already made the thing that he's going to develop complication, because he'll keep going up and down, up and down. Look at the average, it is 8, 8.5. How are you ever going to prevent complication? So what you'll do, first diet, then one drug, then second drug, then third drug. That is why the verified trial, which I was part of, we just wrote a commentary on that. And there we are saying start with early aggressive combination therapy. 2 drugs instead of 1. Why are you starting with 1? Especially in people where the sugar is very high. The A1C is 11, 12. You just give one metformin. Is it going to control? Why don't you hit early enough? Facing the reality early enough. All that is part of clinical inertia. So what we do is 1 drug, then 2 drugs, then 3 drugs. Then we wait. Then patient will say, doctor, insulin vanda, give me for some more time. Okay, enough, we'll wait. Then we'll wait for another 6 months, 1 year, 2 years. Then you won't come back also. He'll get scared you're going to give him insulin. Another 3 years, he'll avoid you also. By the time he'll come with retinopathy, nephropathy, gone. Clinical inertia over, all over. And it's too late in the day. So then what should you do? Hit hard, hit early. Bring it really down, bring it to below 7, bring it to 6.5 or even at 6 if possible. Then what happens when it goes up, it goes to 7, then down, 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 down. Now you see the average is around 7. Now this person, if you suppose this patient you treated in this way, the upper line, okay, patient A, and patient B you treated like this. Who is going to develop complication? Obviously, patient A is going to develop complication. Any medical student will tell you that, Then why we are not doing it? That is my question. Why? We know all this. Why we are not doing it? Still, it beats me. Why are we not taking enough efforts? That's because we are not passionate enough. We are not pushing. We are not convinced ourselves. If we are convinced, then we will tell our patients. And so first we have to be convinced. And it's to convince you that I'm here, to tell you that it's possible and we should do it. Okay. Now I'm going to raise one more thing which I am a little passionate about. I'm not saying that every patient at the time of diagnosis should be given insulin therapy. In fact, all your patients run away if you say that. But is there any benefit at all in giving insulin for a short period? What do you mean by short period? 4 weeks. 4 weeks, one injection. That means totally 30 injections. Okay. Is there any benefit? Can you preserve beta cell function by this early treatment? Now, if you look at beta cell function, normally it keeps going down, 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 down. We saw this in UKPDS. We saw it in every study. Okay. Can we, I'm not saying that reverse it back and bring it back to normal. That is not possible because age is a non-modifiable factor. Can you slow it a little bit? Push it by 5 years, 10 years before you go. And for that is early insulinization one of the answers in some patients. I'm not saying in every patient, but there are patients in whom it may be needed. My first studies were case studies. Okay, so I started trying this out and seeing, for everything you have to give it a trial. So first I start off with, before I do random, proper studies, I first tried it. It's a 41-year-old male. He had only 7 days duration. Somebody has treated him, started him on sulfonylurea metformin. When he came after a week, his blood sugar is still 300 fasting, 370 postprandial, HbA1c is 12.6. Okay, HbA1c need not have come down, but fasting PP should have come down. 1 week he is on 2 drugs. It still hasn't come down. So I said, no, I'm going to hit a little harder. I'm going to give him insulin along with these 2 drugs. And after 4 weeks, I'll withdraw the insulin. I've been doing a lot of reading about this. And everywhere I read that we give a little bit of insulin the first 4 weeks for such patients who come with that diagnosed HbA1c is 12.6. That means for the last 2-3 years, he has missed it. So to make up for that, can we do it? What happened was I put the AGP for this particular patient. The AGP, as you know, is ambulatory glucose profile. You can wear it on your arm. And this is called time in target. This is a new parameter that we use. Apart from HbA1c, apart from the fasting and PP, we have a 4th parameter now called time in target. Time on target should be above 70%, preferably 100%. This man had 0%. Time above target is 100% for him. Okay. So I started him on this insulin and all that. Slowly started coming down. By the 5th day, 19% got under control. Then it got better. By the 10th day or so, almost 100% got under control. This gray shaded areas where it should be. 100% got under control. Okay. Much improved. So I told him, this is one of my early patients. So I said, let me put one more AGP because I want to know whether it's going low in the 2nd week. Am I hitting you too hard? To my surprise, I found that it was almost 100% under control in the 2nd week. Okay. 98, 99, 100%, 100%, 100%, 100%, 100%. At the end of 2 weeks, 98% was under control, 2% was low, and 0% was above target. This 2% is low is like, you'll have to search for it. Oh, for 5 minutes it went to, and I kept it at 70. For 5 minutes it went to 69, it'll pick it up. Okay. It's not really low sugar. And this old Freestyle Libre Pro used to overread those hypos. They were wrong actually. Today we got a better one. The Libre has come, which is a little better. It's also more expensive. But this is not real hypo at all. So 0 hypo, 100% under control with this. So what happens to this patient? HbA1c 12.6. Look at this A1C. Came down to 4.9. Can you imagine 4.9? You won't even believe me. You think I cooked it up. Why should I cook it up to tell you? I'm only making a fool of myself. When I first saw it also, I said 4.9. Is it even possible that a person is like that? Because we hit really hard and the man had no hypo. I'm showing you, he had no hypo. And then over a period of time, this is 2016, you can see 5.6, 6.4, 5.8, 6.3, 6.2. Where is 7? He's not even gone near 7. Okay. When was insulin withdrawn? Not even here. It was withdrawn 4th month. By the 5th month itself, insulin is withdrawn. Okay. And 4 weeks. After that, he's only on 2 drugs. Then he became 1 drug. And with that, this is how he is maintaining. This kind of control I had not seen in my lifetime. 35, 40 years I have not seen. And it was an opening for me, eye-opener for me. And I said, this is how we should be treating our patients. So then most impressive was when we started looking at the C-peptide. Now, C-peptide is a marker of insulin secretion. And that is low in people who have very high sugars because of glucotoxicity. So it was 0.9 fasting and 1.6 after breakfast or after stimulation, which is very low. It should be double of that. What I found after giving this insulin for a short period, 3-4 months later, look at a C-peptide. The 0.9 has become 1.4. The 1.6 stimulated has become 4.2. It's almost like a non-diabetic person. That is why his A1C came down to 4.9. Now I'm able to understand. He's almost like a non-diabetic now. Okay. Why? Because I converted him by hitting him hard at a time when I should have hit hard. And I didn't do, oh, try one drug, try this, try that. I was not scared to do it. We went hard and we did that. So you may say, is this just one swallow doesn't make a summer, just one case? After seeing series of cases, I said, let me now take this up in a systematic manner. And what is also we demonstrated for the first time is recovery from beta cell stunning. The beta cell is not dead. It's a functional recovery of the beta cell. The beta cell is not working. Now they started working. So my friend Jatinder Kumar Mokhta from Shimla, he was a big follower of mine, and he had listened to my talk so many times in API. So he studied a series of 122 patients whom he gave insulin at the first time, and look at his results. This is postprandial blood sugar, 408 come down to 144, almost like a straight line. Okay, unbelievable. You think it's cooked up results, you know. These are actual results of every single patient. I am part of it. I did the analysis for him. And you can see here that the fasting has also come down. This is after 36 months. It's after 3 years. And how long insulin is given? 4 weeks. Still only for 4 weeks. And this is the response that you're getting. Those of you who have tried it, you will believe me. Okay. Look at the A1C in this group of people that Mokhta studied. 11.4 down to 6.6. 7, 6, 6, 6, 7. So he didn't hit hard enough. Otherwise, he'd have got those 5s which I was seeing. Okay. Then what we did was we also published last year another large series. This is 426 patients. This is at our own center, where what we have got many things in this article, but what I'm showing you only is the C-peptide results. Now, if you look at the fasting C-peptide, this is at baseline. This is after 3 months. This is after 1 year, and this is after 2 years in a series of over 100 people, initially 400 people, and you can see that it is sustained for 1 year. It's not just for 3 months it is coming. Look at the stimulated C-peptide going up and thing. You'll say one case you showed 4, now you're showing 2.8. Average will come only 2.78. It's still almost double. 4 is in some patients. Some may not respond so well. Depends on how long you missed it. Suppose for 5 years you missed, you may not respond. The earlier you start, the better the response that you will get. Okay. Now, this is another study, not ours, is published from the UK, from Dallas, where in 2012 itself they showed that beta cell function can be preserved after 3.5 years of intensive diabetes therapy. So what they're saying, let me read it. Beta cell function improved for at least 3.5 years. It's much longer. This study was only for 3.5 years. With early and intensive therapy for type 2 diabetes with either insulin plus metformin or triple oral drugs after an initial 3-month insulin-based treatment. They gave insulin for 3 months. At the end of 3.5 years, it is still responding very well. Okay. There's a big systematic review and meta-analysis which has been published, which also shows that short-term intensive insulin therapy can improve the underlying pathophysiology in early type 2 diabetes, and thus will provide a treatment strategy for modifying the natural history of diabetes. So many people have done this, and many people are confirming this. This is a large number of studies which have been combined together. So I'm not talking about one study, I'm talking about many studies. Now, by doing all this, do you have proof that people can live long enough? I'm very humbled to say that in July 2013, I published the first and till today, the only study in the whole world which has shown that people with type 2 diabetes can live for more than 40 years without complications. This is not a small study. It's a large study of 238 patients who had lived more than 40 years. Some of them have lived more than 50 years. Some have lived more than 60 years with diabetes. When I published this, when I sent it to the editor of Diabetes Care, he was so thrilled. He actually came down to India. He said, I want to see this center. Nowhere in the US you have this. I want to see. I think he came to see whether I'm cooking up all my results or not. But then when he saw it, he said, Mohan, because initially when I presented it, I only sent him the survivors. He said, can you do me a favor? Can you pick up the non-survivors? I said, sir, somebody will publish, sir, before that. He said, believe me, my friend, nobody in the world has this. Why are you worried? Take 6 months. I'll keep the paper for you. You know, I am telling you, editor. But put the non-survivors, then you have a classic paper. Believe me, this paper will become a classic, he said. I said, okay, if you give me guarantee you'll publish, I'll wait. So I have to go back to my records. Luckily, we have, that time we had, over 200,000 record. Today, we have close to 500,000 patient record. Any combination you want, electronic, you can go and pick it up. That's the advantage we have. So with that, what we did was we matched these two patients, these two groups of patients. And what we found, oh my God, I thought it's finished. Okay. So the long-term survivors had better glycemic control, blood pressure control, and more favorable lipid parameter. I said the three things. One is blood pressure you have to control, sugar you have to control, and the lipid profile you have to control. If these three are able to do, people are able to live longer. In fact, it was for this that the Harold Rifkin Award was given to me. And luckily, as luck would have it, that man, after becoming editor, after a few years, he became the chief scientific officer of the ADA. And that was when I was nominated for this award. And he said, what are you talking? This guy needs this. No, he's teaching us from India. And that is how I got the Harold Rifkin Award. So I'm going to stop with my conclusion slide by saying that clinical inertia has to be prevented at every stage of the natural history of diabetes. It's possible to prevent diabetes in those with pre-diabetes. Once diagnosed with diabetes, good control of diabetes prevent complications. Routine screening of the eyes, kidney, heart, and feet can lead to identification of complication in early stages and hence reverse them. Long-term survival of patients with type 2 diabetes is possible, and people with diabetes can live their full lifespan. After this, last year I published a paper of a clinical profile of 325 patients who had crossed 90 years of age. The first one is only based on duration. If you live for 40 years, but if you're only 20 years old and 40 years, you're still only 60. That itself was new. Then I found that many of people are living beyond 90, 2 or 3 have crossed even 100 years of age. So now I have, if you go to YouTube, you'll find those people even talking after 100 years, giving a small interview with me after 100 years of age. So all this is beginning to happen. So while on one stage, we are publishing the paper I told you in diabetes care saying that the average patient is still dying early due to diabetes. The other side of the coin, those are not patients whom I treated. That is a whole India kind of a thing where treatment is very poor. But if you really hit hard enough, early enough, then people with diabetes can actually outlive their non-diabetic counterpart. There's something my father used to say. Of course, he didn't have the proof at that time, but now we are beginning to see, and I realized that what my father had said was actually correct. So I'm going to stop here. Yeah, okay. This is just a thing, and this is just to show the YouTube thing where those videos are there. And so any of you want to see any of those videos of those 100-year people and all that, just go to YouTube and type Dr. V. Mohan. For that matter, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, in all those, we are quite active now. And I became active only after COVID came because I had nothing else to do sitting at home. So I started getting into social media. Okay, so I'm going to stop here and now ready to take questions.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mohan, for that excellent talk. I think we will take questions. I think Dr. Mohan Verghese will initiate some of the questions which have been asked. Yes, over to you, Dr. Mohan.
I think you have to unmute Dr. Mohan. You have to unmute. And then.
Yeah, thank you, sir, very much for the wonderful presentation. I think we should learn more from Mohan sir regarding his approach and attitude towards the patient care and the thought process which he has activated to see the possibilities of treating diabetics. Thank you very much, sir, for a wonderful presentation. So, sir, this problem with the barrier is barriers in breaking this resistance of switching over to insulin is very much with the doctors. I think very high, very high. So we have to spend a lot of time to break these barriers, and the doctors are very much afraid to push the patient for intensification of the insulin or early initiation of the insulin. So what is the method? Any new method to break the barriers? Any idea regarding how to break the barriers?
Very valid thing. And one of the reason you said time in another context, but actually it is actually time. If you want to start insulin to somebody straight away, 20 minutes, half an hour, if your time is gone, because you have to tell them how to do it, you have to convince them to do it, you have to teach them how to do it, then they will say no. Then they suppose I'm in a hurry, I have to catch a flight now, and at that time you walk in and your sugar is 400, and then I'll say insulin, please leave me. So I can catch my flight and I'll go. That is the truth behind the matter. I start explaining now, I may miss my flight also. Okay. So that is the reason, and many other such reasons. I don't have a team, I have to do this, people are waiting outside. All these things are the reason. So if we are really committed, we build a team, and then outside the dietitian, educator starts talking to them, telling them about uncontrolled diabetes, what will happen, this, that. It is not painful. It is easy. It is only short term. We can take it away. Once on insulin, need not be always on insulin. All these things you have to tell. Now, if it is difficult to do it after 10, 15 years, you can imagine doing it on the first visit when they are coming, how difficult it will be. In fact, most of my colleagues tell me, doctor, they will run away. Then evening they'll go catch your competitor, and then they will be there. I won that also. You know, what I used to do is to keep, a kind of stamp paper kind of a thing ready. And then if they, if they say, no, doctor, once on insulin, always on insulin, doctor, then I'll get addicted to insulin, doctor. Then you'll never take it away, doctor. I know once you start insulin, you can never start insulin. Then I'll take out the paper and I'll say, you know what? Here, I am writing here. I, Dr. V. Mohan, hereby solemnly promise that after 30 days, I will stop your insulin. If I don't stop your insulin, I will resign my practice. Here it is. Sign. Take it now. Then, oh,
Then
really, he knows that there's something you're not, you're serious. Vasana, really? Yeah, really, I'll do it. Promise 30 days. Promise 30 days. Then you got the first buy-in. Now imagine, this man who was just diagnosed for the first time, and only, I'm not saying HbA1c 7.5 you give it, or 8 also you give it, or even 8.5 you give it. I'm saying somebody comes at 10, 12, where there is no chance. They already got leukotoxicity. Just by adding one more tablet, you'll bring it from 12 to 11, from 11 to 10, from 10 to 8.5, you'll bring it. Now that is his best HbA1c in his life. Are we satisfied with that? I'm not satisfied with that. So I'll go to any extent to satisfy that person. So once you do that, now the other, think about it. Now he has already taken insulin for 30 days. After 10 years, you tell him take insulin. Oh, that insulin which I took, you've broken that fear of that patient. And remember that in a diabetic's life, any time insulin may be needed. A small infection in the leg, he may need it. He's going for a surgery, he may need it. Lady who gets pregnant may need it. Any problem, any stress factor, you may need it. COVID, you may need it. Anything, you may need it. One big factor you have got over, the fear, So if necessary, we should be, I'm not advocating for everyone give insulin. Please don't go away with that, oh, everybody is going to give insulin. No, I'm saying if it instead of one drug, 2 drugs is going to help you, use it. Don't hesitate. Don't go too slow saying, because diabetes doesn't give you much time. All it needs is 5 to 10 years for you to start getting complications. By the time you come, already 5 years would have gone. You don't realize, you're not taking that factor into account, that 5 years could have already gone before they come to us. Okay. So from that angle, once they see that we are passionate about it, number 2, we are doing all this only for his sake. What do I get out of it? I'm going to get more money because I wrote one more sulfonylurea for him or something. That is not the case. So once you're convinced, then they will spread the word. Oh, if you go there, the kind of control that he gives, nobody is giving. So the next person who comes, I believe you treated in some way by which his sugars came, HbA1c came to 5.5. Can you do that for me also, doctor? Yeah, we can do that. So see, now we're changing the whole trend. Otherwise, what do? We as doctors, next time if your sugar is high, I'll give you insulin. It's like telling a child, I'll beat you next time if you're inducing the threat in him.
Fear.
So you're treating insulin like as if, it's like a stick or something, like a gun. I'm going to shoot you with insulin if you come next time. We have built that up over the years. So the very lifesaver drug for which 100th year is coming next year and for which Nobel Prize is given, we are treating it like an enemy, We must always say there is insulin for you anytime. Don't worry. All these tablets will try, but if it doesn't work, good old insulin is waiting for you at any time. Don't worry. That way, if we build it up, then people will know that insulin is not one lady yesterday, she was asking me, this thyroid and all that, I'm hypothyroid. But if I keep on taking, thyroid, will my body get damaged? I said, what about your body which is producing thyroid? Is it damaging your body by producing? You've got little deficiency, you're just replacing it. That's all. Like that here, you're just replacing something. Where is the question of complications? The other thing which people are afraid about is the medicines will produce side effects.
Yes.
This is rampant. You go to any Ayurvedic physician, any Siddha man, they'll constantly telling people, allopathic drug will produce will produce cancer, will produce kidney damage, will produce this whole of social media is that people have been brainwashed now.
Yes.
And a lot of it comes from Kerala,
Yeah.
where, oh, this will produce problem. This is no allopathy or anything. This is scientific medicine. We are practicing scientific medicine. Pharmacovigilance is being done. We are picking up things which others are not picking up. Okay, if you study their system, they also have. I have nothing against Ayurveda or anything like that. But what I'm saying is, why keep on blaming a scientific system where everything is done scientifically? So once you're convinced about it, then I think buy-in from patients very easy.
Yeah, that's a very good message. This is actually, there is a people, the patients are very much scared about the modern medicine tablets.
Correct.
Can kill kidney according to them. So I have to reassure them that nothing will happen.
Correct.
Otherwise, we are assuring, like guaranteeing that nothing will happen. If you are not getting the diabetic under control, your kidney will get damaged.
Correct. It is a diabetes which produces and not your thing. In fact, the other day, about metformin, something came.
Yes.
Metformin, some cheap company had produced something with NDMA levels and it may produce cancer, So then, metformin produces cancer, metformin produces cancer, metformin produces cancer. So one of my assistant, he works in Calicut. He runs my Calicut branch for me. He made a beautiful video on Malayalam. So he was saying that, in Calicut, you get very good biryani. So he was saying, suppose in one of the biryani shops, okay, in Calicut, one small cheap shop, in Calicut, they found a insect in it, or they found a, lizard in it, or something like that. Will biryani get banned? Biryani won't get banned. That shop should get banned because he can produce it. If he had a cockroach in it, it's not biryani's fault, So like that, it's not metformin's fault if somebody produced in a cheap way and had NDMA in it, These are all things that the public don't know. What do the headlines come? FDA withdraws metformin. They won't say, read the bottom where it says one company which had low product. So it's our duty to keep on educating our patients.
Sir, this is diabetic is now early state. It is reversible according to So, what is your studies and other observation regarding the diabetic reversibility?
So this has become a very big thing in social media. All kinds of non-doctors and quacks are now trying this, and for this, keto diet to intermittent fasting to paleo diet to all kinds of diets are now given with a guarantee that you can reverse diabetes. Can diabetes be reversed? Of course, it can be reversed. After GDM, it reverses. After weight loss, it reverses. After bariatric surgery, it reverses. So if you have severe weight loss or severe caloric restriction, then reversal of diabetes is possible. But how many people can achieve it? Number one. Number two, how many people can continue with that? See, suppose you need to lose minimum 15 to 20 kilos to reverse the diabetes. How many people can, first of all, lose 15? How many people have 15, 20 kilos to lose, first of all? A lot of thin people with diabetes. How can they even lose weight? They cannot even lose weight. They can never reverse, okay? Now, if you have a very obese person, then the chance of reversal is much more. They can lose 10, 15, 20 kilos. What is the guarantee he'll maintain that with the 20 kilo weight loss? After some time, he'll get fed up. Again, he'll start eating. Again, he'll put on weight. Again, the diabetes will come back. So when you talk about reversal, you must know that that's why I showed the natural history. The natural history of the condition is from normal to pre-diabetes to diabetes to complications. It can occur. If you have a very motivated patient whose only aim is to reverse that diabetes, he will increase the steps from 10,000 steps to 15,000 steps also, to 20,000 steps also, because he is highly motivated. That person will do it. Whereas suppose you do it only for 1 month and then you give it up, okay? Again, you will come back. So that point you must tell people, yes, it is possible. So one of the message I'm saying is reversal is possible, but it's difficult. It's not easy. It is difficult.
Question. Recently, you published a study regarding white rice and the diabetics.
Yes.
So the brown rice is actually one of the good with the low GI index. So you compare this to white rice and the brown rice.
Yes.
So how it helps in
bringing so we published about 4 or 5 articles on that. This one was our latest one, and this one is very important because it is from the Pure study, and it had 15-year follow-up of about 134,000 people in 21 countries. That is why this paper became very famous. This last one was published 4 weeks ago, where we conclusively showed that excess white rice is linked to diabetes. In fact, it was linked to diabetes only in South Asia. Even in China, it was not there. Because in China, the mean consumption of white rice is 200 grams per day. Whereas in South Asia, India, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Maldives, and so on, it is 639 grams per day, 3 times more. In China, they've reduced. They're eating more non-veg, they're eating more protein, they're eating more salads, they're eating everything else. But here, the very high consumption, and therefore the risk is very, very high. All I am saying is in brown rice, of course, the GI of the brown rice is about 62 something. In white rice, it is 74, 78, 80, depending on the type of white rice. And the amount of the rice also is very important. What I'm saying is you don't have to give up rice completely, What I'm saying, in your plate, put less of rice, take double the quantity of vegetables, take more of the protein. For non-vegetarians, it can be fish or chicken, white of the egg, and so on. For the vegetarians, you can take Bengal gram, green gram, black gram, mushroom, soya, and all this. So you fill that up with a lot of protein and fiber. Automatically, your protein content will go up, your fiber content will go up, your carbohydrate content will come down, your glycemic index will come down. That is all I'm saying. I'm not saying don't eat white rice. I'm saying people cannot live without rice. So what I'm saying is you reduce the quantity of rice, add more protein, make it more balanced, and also add more exercise. Because I showed in the same paper, in that white rice paper, those who do physical activity, good amount of physical activity, the risk is minimized very much. Whereas you don't do physical activity and you're eating more white rice, your risk goes up very, very high. So there are still ways of mitigating it. It's not white rice is a poison or anything like that, but it is a large contributor to the diabetes in Kerala, in Tamil Nadu, and in South India, where rice is consumed. In other places like Bombay or Delhi, wheat is consumed, which is also same. They're also eating a lot of chapati, you know. So the same thing they are also getting. They're not very much protected because they're eating. There is also refined wheat only. So they are also not protected.
Yes.
Next so there are a few questions on the chat box, Dr. Mohan. Can I just ask some of those questions from the audience?
Please, please.
Yeah. One of the first, there are 5, maybe you can have short, quick answers, Dr. Mohan, because there seem to be 5, 6 questions.
Yeah. You can have
the first question is about metformin and pre-diabetes. Would you recommend, and what will be the dosing schedule?
So the studies which have been done, the DPP study, the IDPP study, our own DCLIP study, they've all shown that lifestyle is more efficient and more beneficial than metformin. But if you have combined impaired fasting glucose and impaired glucose tolerance, that is IFG and IGT combined, 2 forms of pre-diabetes, then metformin is justified because you're going to progress very fast to diabetes. Normally we start with 500 milligrams once or twice a day, depending on the A1C level and the sugar levels. But that must be in addition to lifestyle, not instead of lifestyle. If you stop lifestyle and just take metformin, it's not going to work. Okay. And if you take metformin along with intensive lifestyle, yes, there could be advantages. So use it for people who have a little higher level of HbA1c and also those who have combined IFG and IGT.
The next question from the chat box. There is gestational diabetics. There is an increasing in India.
Okay.
And very, very high incidence of gestational diabetics. That is our pre-diabetics. So what's your outlook regarding this particular entity?
Gestational diabetes is only a reflection of the diabetes prevalence in the state or in the country. If your diabetes prevalence is low, your GDM will also be low. And generally, the GDM prevalence is equal to the pre-diabetes prevalence in the population, because those are the people who become GDM, and later on after the pregnancy, it can go away. So aggressive looking out for GDM, testing every pregnant woman for diabetes, because today in cities like Ernakulam or in Chennai or Mumbai and Bangalore and so on, the prevalence of gestational diabetes is over 25%, which means that 1 in 4 pregnant women have GDM. How do you know which one that 4 is? So screen all. Everyone who comes gets a sugar done at 24 weeks, a GTT done, HbA1c done. These are all government mandated rules now. The DIPSI mandates it, everybody mandates it. So you do that, you pick up GDM, you treat it. Diet and exercise is enough in the treatment of GDM in 85% of women. We have published in our WINGS paper that only 15% need medication. That medication can be insulin or metformin. Increasingly, a lot of people are using metformin. I'm old-fashioned. I still use insulin because it's for 2 months, 3 months. I convince my women they are willing for it. So I still go with insulin. But a lot of OGTians and so on prefer metformin because they don't need a physician then to treat. I have no objection with it. But 50% of those in the mixed study, it was shown that 50% of those with metformin will also need insulin in addition. So the other drugs like glibenclamide and so on are not recommended for pregnancy. Metformin, if it's a very mild type, if you think that you can use it, you can use it. But GDM should not be neglected because it leads to macrosomia, shoulder dystocia, and so many other problems. Also, you're now dealing with the life of a mother and the child. Both are there. And by preventing this and treating it well, the child's risk also gets reduced. Therefore, you have 2 birds in 1 stone. So GDM has a low-hanging fruit, which you should treat very well.
Yes, thank you, sir. Next is one question. That is regarding we in Kerala, people eat a lot of put and that banana, that is white rice powder and a banana.
I know. Puttum kadla, puttum banana, yeah.
They go to reactive hypoglycemia in a large number. They go on with the cardiologist and neurologist because of the atypical presentation. How you find this entity in your area, Madras, Chennai, and we find a lot of cases in here.
We find it here also. And what it is an early stage of diabetes, as you said,
Yes.
before the pancreas fails, it is hyper secreting insulin trying to correct the defect. And in the process, 3 or 4 hours after the breakfast or lunch, the sugar will dip because too much of insulin comes out. And then suddenly it dips. And then they'll start getting this hypoglycemic. The treatment for that is to have small, frequent feeds. So have 2 idli, let's say at 8 o'clock. And 1 or 2 idli at say 11 o'clock or 10:30. That is better than having 4 idli or 5 idli at breakfast, because then the sugar will go up, more insulin will come, more hypo will come. If you divide it like that, neither it will go too high, neither too much insulin will come, nor will it go down too low. So small frequent feeds is the answer for that. Weight reduction will definitely help, because in these people hyperinsulinemia is there. So, and they will be overweight. So if they reduce 5 kilos in weight, the fasting insulin will come down, everything will come down, then this hypoglycemia will go away. So reactive hypoglycemia can end in 2 ways. One, if you become normal, if you reverse it, the insulin level will come down, you lost weight, you become normal. The other way, if you become diabetic, then your insulin level goes down because you become diabetic. Then you won't get hypoglycemia because the sugars have gone very high. So instead of jumping on that side of the wall, jump on this side of the wall and become normal. Again, I'm going back to that figure which I put in the beginning, showing normal, pre-diabetic, diabetic. Those pre-diabetic people who develop reactive hypoglycemia are early diabetic stage. In the late stage, who has insulin? Their insulin level has gone down so much, there'll be no reactive hypoglycemia at all.
Regarding any questions from the chat box?
Yeah, we have a question from one of our medical students.
Okay.
She wants to ask whether the duodenal mucosal resurfacing technique will replace intensive insulin therapy for type 2 diabetes in the coming years. What is your comment?
Very good question, and I think that's a kind of gold medal question. And well, these are experimental things. You know, the innovation never stops. These kind of things started coming after bariatric surgery, because in bariatric surgery, the reversal of diabetes is seen on the first day itself. 24 hours, you'll find sudden reversal coming. By the time no weight loss has occurred, nothing has occurred. Of course, intense caloric restriction is there, almost 0 calories on the first day. But even then, for reversal of diabetes to occur so fast means that something has happened within the gut mucosa and the duodenum and so on. So people are looking into the hormones. What exactly is it the ghrelin? Is it something else? Is it the GIP or GLP, or what is the one which is responsible for this? So a lot of work is being done, and people believe. So now people are saying, instead of doing bariatric surgery, you just coat the thing and then keep it, and then some other way instead of actually. So that's where the balloon and all that came in. Just put in a balloon into the thing, prevent absorption. They're all restrictive thing. So till now it is too early. It's more of a research kind of a tool, but you never know how it is going to come. For example, the first oral GLP-1 receptor analog is going to come, semaglutide. It's already come. It's going to be launched in India now. Now, instead of injecting the dulaglutide or the liraglutide, if you can take this in an oral form, now this is going to be one of the first peptides which is coming in an oral form. They've combined it with a thing called SNAC, and using that particular molecule, slowly from the stomach, it gets released. One day, maybe insulin will come like that. They've already tried so many things in insulin, they failed so far. Who knows? 5 years from now, we may have an oral insulin, which is beautifully, not attacked by the stomach and slowly released. And then we may not need injections at all. At least the fast-acting insulin we may not need at all in such. So modern technology is developing at a very fast rate. We never know what is going to come tomorrow. I would never have thought that a GLP-1 receptor analog will come in an oral form. Okay. Now, once weekly insulin is already, trial is going on. We are part of the trial. So there is a insulin molecule which can be given once a week. Beautifully, Novo is bringing it out, and the trials are going on. In 2 years' time, we may get that. So once a week, if you take insulin is enough. Just imagine, just like once a week dulaglutide and all that. Once a week insulin, who would have thought that is possible? If that comes in the 100th year of insulin, that will be a great thing. And if another 1 or 2 years when oral insulin also comes, really, it makes life so much easier. So
one more question from, actually, we are moving to one of the peripheral mission hospitals in Chhattisgarh. One of our doctors who works there.
Okay.
He has asked a question that for a 55 to 65-year-old gentleman who comes in a peripheral mission hospital, I don't have HbA1c available immediately. Looking at the blood sugar and it's a newly diagnosed diabetes, what should be my approach to manage this patient?
Don't worry, don't feel bad if you didn't have HbA1c. When I started my practice, I didn't even have blood sugar. I had only urine sugar. Then I came to the blood sugar. Then only HbA1c came after 10, 15 years after I started my work. How did we treat patients before that? So do with what you have. You can set your blood sugar targets. Now, roughly you can calculate if your fasting is in the range of say 130, 140, your HbA1c may be 7, 7.5 something. If your fasting is say 180, something like that, your HbA1c is definitely going to be above 8, 8.5. If your fasting is 250, 300, your HbA1c is about 10, definitely. So suppose your fasting is say 300 and your postprandial is 450, you don't need a HbA1c. HbA1c will come as 12 or above. HbA1c cannot come as 7 with that. It's impossible. It's taken so much time for the fasting to go up. So in such cases, start with the early treatment thing, and there in a peripheral center, you might find it difficult to start insulin and so on. But at least start with 2 drugs or something. Be a little bit more aggressive than just giving one metformin to the patient and expecting it to come down. Ask yourself, how much can this one drug bring it down? 30 milligrams, 40 milligrams, not going to bring down 200 milligrams, with one drug. So if you need 200 milligrams to come down, tell yourself you need more than one drug. Otherwise, you're not going to achieve that. So if you adopt that kind of an attitude, definitely you will be able to treat better. So do what you can in that peripheral center. And the other thing is start HbA1c. What's preventing you from starting? CMC will help you. Get a small, somebody from there to come spend 3 weeks in HbA1c in the CMC lab, which is one of the best labs in the whole country, or in your Believers Church Hospital, if you have a good thing there. Let them get trained. And then you can go back and then start the HbA1c there. As part of our in-depth study, we actually set up HbA1c in Mizoram and 1 or 2 places. That is one of our commitments that we gave. That many of the states, in the whole state, there's no A1c. So we went, brought them over, trained them, put them back there, started. And so that is a seva, that's a service that you can do to help improve those states. Why should they be in the dark ages now? They're also part of India. So let us try to improve those places. Even in remote villages, we should be able to set up. Today we have point of care devices. So good point of care devices there. Just with a strip, you can get your HbA1c. That anybody can get. You don't need even a lab technician to do it.
So one final question from a pediatrician from Bangalore who's attending this. He's an alumnus of Velo. He asked that if there's a patient who has GDM and it continues postpartum, which OHA would you prefer in the breastfeeding mom to continue? Which will be your choice of OHA?
Metformin is quite safe because metformin, even during the pregnancy, we are giving it. And it doesn't, first of all, it doesn't produce hypoglycemia. I've never seen a child get hypoglycemia after being fed. Theoretically, according to the books, they'll say only insulin during lactation, but no mother is going to agree after the delivery to start continue insulin. 99% of women will not agree. So everybody is treating them with metformin and so on. So I think at that stage, because the sugar also would have come down after the delivery. So usually metformin should be sufficient. But even if you give another drug, if you give a small dose of a sulfonylurea, nothing is going to happen. The child will not get hypoglycemia and get any problem due to that. If you really need it, just treat the mother. Most of these are not secreted in the breast milk, and there may be theoretical considerations, but practically nothing will happen. Of course, if the lady is willing to have insulin for a few more days, if you tell her then another 2-3 months, if you can take insulin, it's good. If it is needed, if the sugar is really high, it's very rare though, very rare for them to need insulin immediately after the delivery. But if they need that, then of course you can give that. So the choice is yours, and metformin is absolutely safe. You can give.
One last question. Sorry, because I think we have to wind up. But there's a question from Darjeeling. One of our colleagues who's attending from Darjeeling says it's very prevalent here to have herbal, homeopathic, and Ayurvedic medicines being given to our patients along with the allopathic drugs which we give. How safe are these to give this along with our medications? And even in Kerala, this jackfruit powder has got a lot of prominence. So what are your comments about jackfruit powder, sir, and also about these herbal allopathic medicines mixing with allopathies?
Yeah, the jackfruit problem, Father Jacob, is it? So he has been writing to me also. I've looked at his data. He presented something in the ADA. It was only a poster. It was run on some 30 or 40 people. Very small study. HbA1c reduction was some 0.3 or 0.4%. With that, he says, no, ADA has approved it. Somewhere got Indian award for it. Also, we got some big Nobel Prize he's claiming for that. The study is very small. So I told him, why don't you do a proper study, including 20 people, 30 people. If you're claiming is going to cure diabetes and something and like that, do a bigger study. I'll do, he said. So as it is, the evidence is very, very weak. I mean, if you want to try it for something else, you can try it, but something which is unproven, I never try. I always give things for people because you're giving it to a human being. And so that way it is fine. Now, regarding herbal, homeopathic and Ayurvedic medicine, homeopathy, I am a bit skeptical because the very concept of homeopathy itself is a little, some of you should listen to Aditya Menon's, Aditya Menon is an actor and a Malayalam actor. And he, talks very well. His English is also very good, very, very scientific arguments. So he talks about homeopathy and all that. You should listen to him. So homeopathy, I would find it very difficult to sell. But Ayurveda is different. See, Ayurveda is an old tradition where they do have medicines. Okay, given that they have not kept pace with the time and they have not modernized and they have not think. Ayurveda is excellent for many things. If I had a knee pain or a thing, I would prefer Ayurveda any day than to take these painkillers which will knock out my kidney. So I would any day prefer that for chronic things, for physiotherapy, for many things. For diabetes, the drugs, I have done many trials on Ayurvedic drugs. They are very mild, maximum HbA1c reduction of 0.5. Including Bitragod, including Gymnema sylvester, including Memoria chaotica, you name them all, I have tried. Combinations of them, I have tried everything. So the claims made are far too much than the actual result. The actual result is in mild cases, it will work. So if you're asking me, can you use them? You can definitely use them. Are they safe? Well, it depends on who makes them. If they are made under stringent quality control, probably they're safe because a lot of people taking it. But if you do it, just like the metformin story I told you, if you do that in a haphazard manner, any drug produced by anybody can be haphazard. Many of these things don't go through the stringent quality control which the Western medicine goes through. And that is one of the reasons why some fellow in his backyard will be making it. And call it Ayurvedic, then no questions are asked. So you must be careful because some of them contain lead, some of them contain antimony, bismuth, heavy metals, and so on. So lead poisoning has been reported. Kidney failure, I have seen kidney failure after Ayurvedic drugs. I must say, when I tried to say that, there were threats on my life. People said, we'll kill you. If you say all this, we'll murder you. Please stop talking all this. So I said, okay, it's not my field, and I left it. But I've seen liver failure after Ayurvedic drugs. I've seen not only Ayurvedic, Unani, Siddha, all these things. And I've seen kidney failure. It may not be the drug. It could be the contaminant. And it all depends on the stringent quality control. How good is the quality control is what I would like to ask. So if there is nothing else in those places, and this is what you're using, if you're very confident of it, go ahead and use it because diet and exercise is the most important thing. After that, in the early stages, even in pre-diabetes, lifestyle is more important. So in that stage, pre-diabetes, early diabetes stage, as long as you're on a strict diet and exercise, any medicine you take, it will control. It really doesn't matter. But when the beta cell really starts failing, when the sugars go really high, HbA1c is gone to 11, 12, 13, 14, then I would like to see these drugs work. I don't think they work. They are not powerful enough. They are not meant for that. They cannot match any of the modern medicines for that. So depending on the stage, in early cases, you can definitely use them, but be careful who makes them, which product you're using, because we don't want to, in the Hippocratic Oath, the first thing that we say is do no harm. Even that follows for us also. Do no harm. Even if you don't do good, don't do any harm. So as long as you're sure you don't do any harm, you can definitely try it, especially if you don't have any of these drugs. Again, I come back to the question, why are you not having these drugs? This is the same country, no? Well, how can you treat Kerala differently from, Northeast? You cannot do that. You have to transfer technology. It's our duty to help those people. If there is something available, we can't say HbA1c is not available in the Northeast. There is another problem with the HbA1c, by the way, in the Northeast, and that is they have hemoglobinopathies. 30% of the people in the Northeast, including Assam, you cannot do HbA1c. It'll come very low because of hemoglobinopathies. Hemoglobin S and hemoglobin E and hemoglobin Punjab and E, and all these are there in the Northeast. So about 30% of people, you cannot even do HbA1c even if you want to. That's what we had in our India samples when we did it in Chennai. We couldn't even do it in many of them. So having said that, it's our duty to see that the whole country comes up, not bring everybody down, so that everybody comes to the same level. Raise everybody up so that everybody comes to the same level. That would be my approach.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. Dr. Mohan Verghese, is there anything else you'd like to ask, or can I hand over to Dr. Jacob?
Yeah, I think time is up, and let me say gratitude towards excellent insight into the treatment of the diabetic, not only the barriers in diabetics, and he has discussed various important points meticulously. And I think the audience might have been definitely benefited out of this particular webinar. I think I on behalf of Believers Church, I am thanking you for excellent presentations, excellent communications, excellent practical points, the research methods which he has done in the past, and is very good motivation towards the young doctors as well as the treating doctors. Thank you, Mohan sir, for the wonderful presentation. Thank you.
My pleasure. Look forward to more interactions. One day, hopefully, if I'm coming that side, I'll drop in.
Yeah. Always welcome, sir.
Your institution also.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, if anybody feels that any of important questions, I saw something on Silimarin, Beriberi, fatty liver, few things. If there's something very important which we have left out that comes up earlier, please send me an email and I will answer it and you can give it to them. Okay, I'll be happy.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, Mohan sir, for that wonderful session. I mean, it was mind-blowing, sir. So my persuasiveness paid off. So I'm really sure that my students and the other participants here will be really grateful for that, and extremely grateful, sir, for taking off your valuable time. I know that each minute is its worth in gold for you. So it's been extremely your love and initiative that you have taken to come and be part of this session, and we have really reaped the benefit of that. Thank you so much, sir. And especially the interaction which we had for the last half an hour, it was absolutely amazing. You know, I could go on and on and on and listen to you the whole day for that sort of interaction which you encouraged, and you went ahead so lucidly. Thank you so much, sir, and we are all extremely grateful for that. Thank you so much, Mohan sir.
Thank you, Jacob. And if after a few months, maybe early next year or any time, maybe we can have on some other aspects of diabetes which are not covered now. If you would like me to be, give one more, I'd be more than happy to consider, provided you book me well in advance.
Sir, this goes without saying. I've already planned a slew of talks for you at our institution. And I'm going to be now brutally persuasive.
I know that.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. Such an amazing time we had with you. Extremely grateful for that.
Thank you to the audience for participating and asking so many questions. Yeah. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye, sir. And thanks to Dr. Mohan Varghese, sir, and Dr. Philip Finney, sir, for also coming in and moderating this session quite admirably. And special thanks to the audience, our beloved students, delegates from other states and also from abroad. I hope that this session was indeed quite fruitful for each one of you. So until we meet with yet another highly impactful session, we sign off from Believers Church Medical College and Hospital. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.